Alright. Serpent Dragon Brotherhood Challenge. Yeah. So today when I was at the car repair place picking up my dad's car that he dropped off a week and 3 days ago, I want to say. It was on a Friday. Today's Saturday, so a week and a day or two. Because the guy said, okay, I'll get on it Monday. Anyways, a week and a couple days ago, we dropped that car off there. And that book, with the Alfa Romeo logo on it, I don't even know what the name for that image is. Where the guy is coming out of the mouth of the dragon, or serpent. That book wasn't on the counter then. I looked at those magazines. It wasn't there. I would have noticed that kind of stuff jumps out at me. Today, when it was there, it's got quite a bit of dust on the cover, like it's been sitting in a corner somewhere. Just keep that in mind. When we get there today, the Mexican guy that runs the place, he says hi to my dad. Oh yeah, okay, your car, this and that. He looks over at me and says, hey, how you doing? Been a long time. Haven't seen you. How you doing? I was like, good. After we left, my stepdad, Doug, says, do you know that guy? I was like, I don't think so. He sure was happy to see me though, wasn't he? He's like, yeah, I think he's the guy that changed the head gasket on your CRX. My stepdad brought that up a week ago when we took the car down there. I was going to get my car repaired too that I have sitting out here, and we were just talking about where I took something a while back, and he's like, I think you took your CRX to get the head gasket changed there, right? This is 20 years ago. Literally. When I was 21 or 22, I'm now 41. And I could barely remember when my dad brings up the head gasket, I'm like, I don't even remember. I didn't even remember changing the head gasket on that CRX that I had when I was 22. Vaguely, maybe, kind of, sort of. And I told him, I don't remember it, but you're telling the story. Keep telling. This was a week ago when he was talking about the head gasket I changed on that CRX. So today, when we left the place, and he asked, did you know that guy? I said, no. He sure was happy to see me, though, wasn't he? Yeah, I think he's the guy that changed your head gasket on your CRX. And that's what Doug told himself in order to explain what he had just seen. When I was 22, I was listening to Tupac and Eazy-E and Too Short, being a wannabe little gangster thug. So under that logic that Doug uses to try and interpret and understand why that guy was so happy and excited to see me, because 20 years ago, I took him a car to get the head gasket replaced, and I made such an impression on him that not only did he remember me 20 years later, but I made such an impression on him that he was super happy and excited to see me. Hey, been a long time, how you doing? That makes zero sense, but that's what Doug told himself in order to try and interpret what he just saw within the known bookends of his reality, because otherwise he's going to have to expand his reality and it's going to have to incorporate something about spirituality. Last week when we took the car there, the guy was pretty much just as happy to interact with me as he was this time. And it was probably just a spiritual resonance. Maybe I do know him from somewhere. My point is, after Doug said this, I said, well, maybe he's part of the Serpent Dragon Brotherhood. And I let it pause and let it linger for that 2 seconds of silence. And Doug didn't say anything, so then I just laughed it off. And he still didn't say anything. The guy's got pictures of the Mormon temple on his wall, along with all the presidents of the Mormon church. Maybe not all of them, but a couple of them. Maybe the president and his 2 right-hand men or something. You can tell the guy is a Mormon. Either that, or he just puts up the regalia on his walls to try to appeal to his customers who are Mormon. But that makes no sense either. So the guy's Mormon. That book showed up this week, and it wasn't there last week. And he was so noticeably excited and happy to see me that Doug mentioned it and asked if I know him from somewhere. And when I said no, he said, I think that's the guy you took your CRX to get your head gasket replaced. I can vaguely even recall if I got the head gasket replaced on that car, but if he said so, I guess I did. I don't remember it. So for him to try and use that as a way to explain and make sense of what he just witnessed, it makes zero sense. It's not logical, it's not rational, it's not reasonable that 20 years ago, when I was a little wannabe thug, I took my car to him to get the head gasket replaced. 20 years later, he remembers me, and I made such an impression on him that he's super duper happy and excited to see me, ask me where I've been, so long since I've seen you. That makes no sense. That's what Doug told himself to try and explain what he just saw. Just keep that in mind for a minute. I'll probably have something else to add to it, but I just wanted you... This is mostly for Doug. Doug, think about it. How much sense does that make? The guy changes a lot of parts on a lot of cars for a lot of people. But somehow he remembers me from 20 years ago, and he remembers me so fondly that he gets all happy and excited. Hey, how's it going? Long time, haven't seen you. How you been? Because I took my head gasket and got it changed 20 years ago? That makes zero sense. But it works for him because then he doesn't have to take into account anything else that doesn't fit in the bookends of his reality. Adaptation is done in two ways: assimilation or accommodation. And with new experiences, you have to accommodate. With regular familiar experiences, they just assimilate into your worldview. You put them in your mental filing cabinet where they belong. New and different experiences, in order to adapt, require you to accommodate and make some new files within your filing cabinet. But he doesn't want to accommodate and incorporate spirituality into his explanation and understanding of the world and what he just witnessed. So he tells himself it's because I took a car and got the head gasket changed 20 years ago. Okay, fine. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention, Doug. I don't know if you still watch these videos or not, but that makes no sense. And you saw how happy he was to see me. And you can't make sense of it either. And the application of logic and rationale that you applied is such a form of mental gymnastics. You're trying to get around the spiritual dimension of this. I guarantee you, even if that was the guy who changed my head gasket 20 years ago, that's not why he was so happy to see me. It may have been because last week he received a smile from my heart to his. I remember smiling at him, and because my dad's getting awkward. He doesn't socially interact very well. He's becoming a lot like my mother because that's the only person who he interacts with. That's another story. So while my stepdad's trying to give his car over and explain the guy's Mexican too. And they learn real quick how to tell whether or not someone likes Mexicans or not. Same way I can tell if someone's lying. My ability to read the vibratory frequency output of their heart, no matter what kind of fake smile they may or may not have on their face, he learns to sense whether or not you really like Mexicans right off the bat. Right? Because there's some who don't. And I do, because I've worked with them. They're good people. And last week when I was talking with him, I smiled and he could sense a real smile. And maybe that's what it was. That smile from my heart to his resonated last week. Strong enough that this week is like, hey, good to see you. Been a while, how you been? Because he could sense a genuine, authentic, happy person in his presence. And that's very rare and far and few between these days. And I told my dad on the way back, everyone's jacked up. Their capacitors are full. But after I made that video showing you the Alfa Romeo logo, I push stop and I walk over and my stepdad's trying to show him some pictures of a deer or a moose or something that he took pictures of last week. So I wait. And once he's done talking, I cut in. Say, because it's a car repair place, so, about the car Alfa Romeo? Is a perfect segue No, no. It's top-of-the-line car like Bentley, Rolls-Royce, Ferrari, Alfa Romeo. By the way, it is, and no one's heard of the Alfa Romeo. They've all heard of Bentley, Ferrari, Rolls-Royce, Lamborghini. No one's heard of Alfa Romeo, but it's right up there in the same league. So I take the book over and I set it down on the counter in front of my stepdad and him and say, have you heard of the car? You know, the car Alfa Romeo? No. It's got this on the hood, the emblem on the hood, and on the building where the car dealership, they have one of these. And the Italian Prime Minister, Silvio de Berlusconi, has this in his front yard. Like he has the lawnmower guys trace this pattern in the grass on his front yard. Oh, really? And you recognize that, huh? Yeah, it's a trip, huh? Alfa Romeo cars and Italian Prime Minister Silvio de Berlusconi has that. Oh, and you recognize this, huh? And I go put it down and we leave. And so when my dad asks me, did you know him? Not that I know of. He sure seemed pretty happy to see me though, huh? Yeah, I think he was the guy that changed your head gasket on the CRX. A minute later, I said, second later, a couple seconds later, a second later, literally 1 or 2 seconds later, I said, maybe he was part of the Serpent Dragon Brotherhood. And there was a couple seconds of silence before I laughed, just to see what he might say in response. And then after I laughed, he still said nothing in response. On to part 2 of this Serpent Dragon Brotherhood challenge. On my way out to Missouri Independence, before shit went sideways for everyone else, when I said you're all going to have to go through this too, this relates to my apologies that I told my mom I might owe the bishop for misrepresenting their religion. I said a little something to my sister who left the church, that the day you left was the day that they smiled. It gave them the biggest smile on their face ever, the day you left. The only day that they'll be smiling bigger is the day you return. Because on the day you left, they knew that you were done paying lip service to something you don't believe in and just enjoying and appreciating and benefiting from the community, part of it, and that you were really going to go strike it out on your own. Strike it out. That's probably the appropriate term because since then she's become an alcoholic. I heard last week she might be checking into rehab, but you know how it goes with these alcoholics in their I'm ready to get sober. That changes from day to day. But when I was saying that my sisters have to be bent out of shape, my brother gets the gifts of the Holy Spirit. I paid my tithing. I went to all of these events. I was in this quorum or the Relief Society, and I taught the primary kids and the primary teacher for a year. I went to strawberry days and passed out strawberries. I did all these activities. I paid my tithing. I went through all the motions. And he gets the gifts of the Holy Spirit? What? And I was saying she probably feels lied to or something to that effect. I have 4 stepsisters. 2 of them went the way of the church. The other 2 went the other way. Of the 2 that went the way of the church, one of them dropped out because she got married in the temple, and when she got divorced from that guy, she found out that women can only get married in the temple once, and apparently men can get remarried in the temple. I don't know if that's true. I've heard both sides. I heard people say, no, it's just this, that, and the other. Apparently that's why she went her separate way from the Mormon church. Developed this feminist streak of animosity and contempt within her and tells the other church-going sister, vote for Hillary or you hate women. Bought into all the libtard indoctrination propaganda. She left the church. Her life took a real dive. This was 3 years ago that I was saying they smiled big when you left. The only day they'll smile bigger is when you return, because they saw that you were ready to strike it out on your own. And if and when she does return, she's got a real testimony now. Up until that point, she was just going through the motions. Many people who get a temple marriage, because all the ceremonies and rituals in there are all secret, many of the people that go through and got the temple recommend from the bishop They just went through the motions. They didn't dive deep and look for truth. They were assuming they already have it. That's why I say, to whatever extent you think you know something on whatever subject you think you know something about, to that extent you're incapable of learning anything. And a lot of these people that take for granted, oh, of course I got the truth. I'm in with the church or this church or that truth. They think they got the truth, so they're not looking for it. They just go through the motions, pay lip service to things they don't really understand, but they know that the rest of these people in here don't understand it any better than me either, so they're just all paying lip service too and just going through the motions, so I don't feel like I'm any more shallow or superficial or less genuine and authentic than most of these other people who also got the temple recommended and went through the secret ceremonies. Which is what she did, or a divorce would not have dissuaded her in the way that it did. And whatever truth she discovered upon that divorce was enough to send her on her way. Obviously, if she had some sort of deeper attachment to truth, as it relates to this religion, that wouldn't have sent her on her way. But it did. 3 years ago, I was referring to her, Amy, when I was referring to my sister who left the church, and I said, it put a big smile on their face the day that you walked. Because they know you're big enough to do it on your own now. That's part of why people join a religion. Just like joining a street gang, you're not big enough to walk to and from school by yourself. So you join a gang because you're intimidated to do it by yourself. Same reason people join a religion. Well, she decided she was big enough to do it on her own and she don't need these people and F them, I'm out of here. And on my way to Missouri, I said the only day they'll be smiling bigger than the day you left is the day you return, because then you'll have a true, personally relevant, personally meaningful understanding of why you're here. She might be on her way back. And if you do, Amy, I don't know if you watch any of my videos, but if nothing else, you could at least go and ask the bishop, say, hey, I'm not here to get back in your good graces. But have you heard some of the crazy shit my brother's saying? Is he spiritually, is he demonically possessed? Nothing he says is remotely even close to true, right? Because if it is, then I have to reassess everything I thought I knew. But then again, so does my other sister, who stayed with the church, but probably just went through a lot of the motions too without ever getting to the deeper truths. He's possessed. They would rather believe I'm possessed by the devil than that anything I say, because if anything I say is even remotely close to true, then they have a lot of work to do. And that's what I've said about Christianity in general. It's great because it extracts from the consciousness farm. It cultivates you with that general understanding of God, and that's all you need. The details are just going to get you deeper in a quagmire. The general understanding, knows when you're sleeping, knows when you're awake, wants you to be good for goodness sake. That's all you need to know. Because the reason it's so fair is because right at the end, all of those people got to flip the script on everything they think they know in order to get through the narrow gate. Yet, millions and millions and millions of people recite the same shit to one another and think they're on the narrow path. They never do the math and go, wait a minute. Either it's lying and the path really isn't that narrow, or we're not on the narrow path that leads to salvation. Because I see millions and millions of people to both sides of me. That means this can't be a very narrow path. And so I suspect my sisters are hoping I'm wrong. They would hope that I'm just possessed by the devil. You could go back and break the ice and ask the bishop if there's any truth to these things your brother is saying, and come back and let me know what he says, because I haven't got to ask him yet, but I have a pretty good feeling I know what they might say. And it would be so devastating to someone who has all their hopes and dreams invested in those things they thought they knew, because they took a hardline stance on things they didn't understand. They're like, come on, Bishop, don't tell me there's any truth to what he's saying, right? Because if so, that means we are the devil-worshipping Satanists that the mainstream Christians refer to us as, right? if any of this stuff about the dragons, just tell me why there's dragons on the Salt Lake courthouse, Bishop. And Green Man bad, right? You can at least tell me just Green Man bad, right? Remember the song that we sing about how we bruised our heel, stomping on the serpent's head, and we bruised his head, and we bruised our heel. And that's what makes us the good guys and them the bad guys, right? Just tell me Green Man bad. At least give me that, Bishop. So you can go back and ask him if your brother's demonically possessed or if there's any truth to what he's saying, but it seems like you might be back on the path toward returning to the church with a much deeper, personally relevant, personally meaningful testimony after your life took a big dive because you got your heart filled with contempt and animosity and bitterness and hatred and hardened your heart. Took a big dive, bounced along the bottom for a while, and then got sober. And you got to just go back and at least ask him if your brother's demonically possessed, right? Have you heard some of this shit my brother's saying, Bishop? Tell me it's not true. Tell me he's way off base, or if there is any truth, that he's demonically possessed and he's satanic, Luciferian, got everything inverted. Otherwise, that means me and my sister got a lot of research to do and a lot of whole new understandings to wrap our mind around. And we've got a lot of adaptation requiring accommodation. Because these things that he's saying do not assimilate into our worldview as it pertains to this religion. Therefore, if we want to adapt and anything he says is true, it will require us to accommodate these things that will not assimilate into our concept and our cosmology. The bishop might say, well, you know we're not the devil-worshipping, satanic, evil people. You know we're all good people, right? Regardless of any doctrine and dogma, differences in the details of these concepts and words, you know that we're good people, right? You don't think that we're like secretly doing all that evil stuff that people will try and lead you to believe, right? You know that from your own experience with us, Zatetics, through your own senses of the life you lived and all the Mormons that you've interacted with, you've even been in on the secret rituals, which, by the way, they tell you that you are not even to tell your wife or your husband what it is you do in the temple. That's between you and God and the people in the temple. So there are people out there who are husband and wife who aren't on the same page when it comes to their level of understanding of these things. And there's a lot of people that are going to have to accommodate a lot of new and different ideas, and people don't like that. They like tried and true, routine, repetitive. New and different requires accommodation in order to adapt. Those who are unwilling to accommodate in order to adapt, you either grow or die. That's the options. So real quick, I'm going to change subjects here, but kind of sort of not really. A video linked in the description that I made on my way to Missouri to Independence, titled Who Made Who? Where I pulled into the parking lot of a Flying J or something, and I'm filming all these dragons, shapes all around in the dirt, on cars everywhere. And the car right next to me has their car loaded with like everything they own. Just like mine. Loaded with the back end clear down to the ground. With just a random hodgepodge of apparently everything they own, or everything they could fit in the car that they own. And while I'm filming, I say, look at this person. They're on the same trip as me. They probably want to come, they probably want to kick my ass, come out here and see me filming their car all jacked up with all their stuff like that. But they're on the same trip as me. That guy came out and confirmed this for me. And there's a couple things in that video, I just watched it again the other day, a couple things I failed to mention that happened during the conversation. While I'm filming, look, these shapes in the dirt and in the... By the way, don't let me forget. Colorado Bigfoot, he's having the same experience, except it's not dragons it's Bigfoot that he's seeing all over. We'll talk about that later. So this guy comes out, and while I'm filming, you can hear me say, huh? As he approaches, I push pause and go, what was that? Hi, I'm Jeff. And you can kind of hear me trail off. And the next thing you see is me get back in the car. But I accidentally put the camera up on the dash the wrong way, so the latter half of the video is upside down. And the thumbnail is my face turned upside down. What happened during that conversation is he walks up to me and says, and he wasn't all, hey, what are you doing filming my car? He was very passive, very non-aggressive, non-threatening, almost like intimidated to even ask. Someone said you were taking pictures of my car. I was just wondering what the interest is. I said, it looks like you're on the same trip as me, brother. Look at my car, loaded with everything I own, ass to the ground. He looks at my car. I said, where are you headed? He goes, and you can hear his voice quiver as he's looking at the sky. Yep, you're on the same trip as I am, brother. He goes, where are you going? You got a specific location yet? I said, nope, but I'm going. I said, we made it, brother. We received the calling, and we went. He's like, I don't think we made it yet. I said, we have. I think we have. When he asked me if I have a specific location, I said, nope, but I'm going. At the time, I was still headed to Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri borderline, where there's a Mormon temple over there. And he says, but I'm not even Mormon. I said, neither am I. But I received the calling, and I'm going. And apparently so did you. We made it. He received the calling. He went. If you receive the calling, I suggest you go too. Seems like there was something else. Anyway, so I think that was about all of our conversation. He says, I don't know if we made it yet. I said, I think we have. You could tell he was still a little bit scared. And he kept looking up at the sky. When I asked him, where are you headed? Yep, you're going the same place. You're on the same trip I am, brother. Where are you headed? You got a specific destination in mind? Nope, but I'm going. Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri border. There's a Mormon temple over there. I'm going somewhere around that general area. I'm not even Mormon, he says, as if he almost already knew there was a correlation between the calling that he received and the Mormon church, which he was not a part of. I said, neither am I, but we received the call. And obviously you responded, and so am I. We made it, brother. I don't think we made it just yet. I said, I think we have. That made a bigger difference in that guy's life. And for him to run into me right then and there on the same journey as me and see that I was in fact on the same journey as him, he said, okay, well, I'm going to go back in and finish my breakfast. All right, you take it. I said, you whatever. I said, all right, and we parted ways. I forget what I might have said in parting. If I wasn't on a mission the way I was, I would have gone in and said, okay, so what brought you here to this location? Like, tell me the sequence of events that's led you to being here in this parking lot with everything loaded in your car, headed somewhere that you don't even know where you're going. Because obviously you and I have a lot in common. And we ended up right here next to each other. And while I was filming his car, before he even came out and confirmed, I said, this guy's on the same trip I am. He came out and confirmed that. I don't think I even gave my YouTube page. I didn't even mention my YouTube page. Because there was more important things at hand, and he was already on his journey. So I'm going to include that in the description. You'll see how far out I was at the time. And by far out, I mean sounding insane to a person who doesn't know what's going on. To a person who's trying to explain my experience from within the bookends of their known reality. This guy's having a nervous breakdown, a mental and emotional breakdown, a psychological breakdown. He needs mental health evaluation, maybe some medication. We made it. And so the final Serpent Dragon Brotherhood challenge is for Amy to go ask her bishop if her brother's possessed by the devil, or if some of the things he says are true, because if anything he says is even remotely close to true, there's a lot of learning they have to do, and that's why I said Christianity makes it very fair for everyone. Because right at the end, everyone has to flip the script on everything they thought they think they know. Green man bad. Green man bad. At least tell me that, right, Bishop? Green man bad. I mean, we bruised our heel, stomping the serpent's head. Come on, remember the song we sang? Come on. Green man bad. Right? Right? Bishop, come on, tell me green man bad, at least. You mean... And the identity crisis will break you down and build you back up. And that is the rising of the phoenix. And right now, that's what's happening for a lot of people. But when I said those things, shit hadn't gone sideways yet for everyone else. This was all pre-COVID. This was while everyone else was going about their business as usual, as if life was going to carry on the same forever. Some of us received the calling early, and I told you that you will all have to go through this as well. So prepare to have your worldview shattered, because in this paradigm shift, each of us get to have our worldview and our self-image broken down and then rebuilt. And many people along the way won't make it because they're not willing to let go of their preconceived ideas. They have no mental plasticity. Their cognitive abilities are crystallized. They cannot do new and different. And these things are so new and different and run so contrary to conventional wisdom. I mean, everyone in the Mormon church knows green man bad, right? Right? Right. So I hope she finds her way back there and swallows her pride and recognizes her heart got hardened and her life suffered for it. But now she has a real testimony. And I hope she finds her way back there soon, because we don't have long.